Midjourney added some amazing new functions. Hello my friends, how are you doing? There's a lot to talk about. I created some really interesting slides for you to show you the newest functions and how to use them effectively. This is also supported by RoboMar. He created some of the artworks. Thanks for that. Let's get started. If you want to know more about RoboMar, check him out on Instagram, link below his video. He is a Midjourney prompting expert. He is sharing his experiments and the prompts every day, so there's a lot of good stuff to find. Let's look here at the first new change. This can be called by /shorten, and what this does is that you can put a prompt in there that you have created mainly for longer prompts, and then Midjourney will look at the prompt and will try to remove parts that are not effective, or it will create shorter versions of that prompt. Now this function is a bit experimental still, but it is still interesting to play around with that to see what kind of effects it has. One downside I found with this method is that it removes all of the commands from your prompt, so afterwards you don't, for example, have the ratio anymore, but also stylize, chaos, all these kind of things are not there anymore. And the problem here is when you want to use these prompts, you have to click on the number buttons to call them, and there is no field to adjust the prompt. So basically, the better version here is to select the text that has been created for you and then copy it into a new /imagine prompt, text field, and then add your prompt commands at the end as usual. Next, we are coming to the new zoom function, and this one is absolutely mind-blowing in what it can do, but also the quality it can create. Now, here are the basic steps on how to actually find that function, because it is a little bit hidden. So the way to use this is, first of all, you have to upscale the image, and then when it is upscaled, you can see there is new options below the image. So you have zoom out 2 times, zoom out 1.5 times. This is simply zooming out in all directions in the same way, but then there's also custom zoom, and here you can change the ratio and also set a custom value of how strongly you want to zoom out. This can be in a value between 1 and 2. Next, here I have a sample image of a mother holding her child in the kitchen. This is created with version 5, not version 5.2 in that case. I forgot to actually do that, but it doesn't really matter for the zoom out function. This works with every version of Midjourney. In this case, I actually also wrote in the prompt 3x4, but I didn't put the -AR. So this is a square image, which is good for us for the testing of this function. So here we can see the change where I used custom zooming, and in this case I added -AR 4x3 to change the ratio. Then I also added zoom 1, so it is only zooming out with the 1 value, which is a good value to zoom out from, because the value 2 can be very extreme, if, as you will see in a future example I'm going to show you here. Now, the interesting thing here is when you have zoomed out from an image to create this outpainting effect, you can still zoom out further and also create other ratios from that. So you can see that the core element, the core image, is still the same, and it is doing outpainting at the sides of the image. Now, this is always creating 4 versions of the zoom out, so you can choose from them, and also, of course, you can zoom out, making as many variations as you want to have. Here you can also see that the quality is very nice and it really sticks to the style, so that is really amazing, and I'm very surprised how well this actually works. Here you also have a bigger example, so you can have a better look at the quality of this zoom out. I'm really amazed at how consistent it creates the kitchen around the mother, and that it also has a room and a perspective in the room where on the left side it creates a wall with these different appliances for the kitchen, with a stove, with a window in there, even with a microwave. So there's a lot of very interesting details in there that are not found anywhere in the prompt, but they are nicely generated by the zoom out basically the outpainting function of Midjourney. Now here's another function that you see under every upscale, and this will tell you to make square. Now what this is doing is not cropping into the image. Instead, it is using the base of the image, the ratio you have so far, and then turning that into a square ratio and filling the parts that are still empty. So even though we have here this wide ratio that you can see on the top right, this is creating upper and lower parts of the image, again, in a very consistent way, and turning it back into a square ratio by filling these elements, these areas of the image. Now again, I'm very surprised how well this works. And also, as you can see here, we have outpainted this image multiple times, but there are no edges to be found. There is no inconsistency from the color or from the details. So it's really surprising how well this works, and you can't see the edge of where this is actually creating the outpaint. Now here I have another example. As I showed you before, there are these zoom out buttons where you can just click on them without changing the ratio. And in this case, you can see we are starting with a square image, and it is zooming out, in this case by a value of 2, around the center image. So it is zooming in all directions at the same time. And with the value 2, you're getting a pretty intense zoom. So the main character is now a lot smaller in the image, and it created a full room around the character. Again, it is really surprising to see how well this works, and you can also see that in the original image the light is coming from the right side, so the zoom out actually created a window there that is consistent with that light, but also lit the rest of the room consistently and without a color or brightness edge around the center image. So again, that is really mind-blowing that this works so well. This zoom out without changing the ratio can be done by these 2 blue buttons. In that case, you only have the choice between these predefined values of 2 or 1.5. If you want to have other zoom values like a 1, 1.2 and so on, anything between 1 and 2, you have to click on the custom zoom button. But also in the custom zoom button, when you don't change the ratio and just set the zoom value, this again will zoom out in all directions in the same way. So you can also do that and have a square image afterwards. Here you can see a comparison of a zoom out from the square version to a ratio of 16:9 with different zoom values. So what this also shows is that the zoom value is always filling the ratio that you're creating, but it is filling it only to the extent of the zoom out you want to have. So you still always get a 16:9 image, but the more you zoom, the further you are from the main character. So with zoom 1, you can see that the main character basically stays the same, and just the empty areas that are needing to be filled to get that ratio are filled with new content. 1.5 is further removed from the main character, and with 2, which is here on the top right, you can see that the main character already is becoming pretty small, and you have a full room created around that character. Now, an interesting thing you could also do here is that you can zoom basically as often as you want. So you could go and zoom and zoom and zoom, and then afterwards, for example, turn this into an animation where you overlay these images and zoom out to create a zooming out video from that. That could be pretty amazing. One thing I also found about the zoom function is that it completes images. So here I created an image of an ornamented, intricate dress. And as you can see, the head is cut off, the body is cut off because it's focusing on the dress as I requested through the prompt. But with the zoom out in square in all directions in the same way, this has actually created a consistent and fitting character around that cropped in image. So that is again really surprising. I did not expect that, especially because the background is black here. So I would think that Stable Diffusion would have a much bigger problem with creating an actually character that is fitting in the pose, fitting to the style, and has this aura of a model shot and also this dark fashion shot with these stronger highlights. So that's really interesting that we get this amazing result. This is a first roll, as are all the other images' first rolls. These are not cherry-picked results. Here's also an example by Robomar. I want to show you. I got the idea of the mother with the child in the kitchen from him. So this is the image he created. And here we have the first zoom out and it's looking really good. And this is the second extension, and it is pretty amazing how well this works, also with the perspective and also with these nice details that you see on the left side, on the right side. There's so much consistency in here. It is really beautiful that you can create these scenes and everything in there seems to work and also follows the artistic style that has been created in the first version. So this has huge potential to create multiple versions of your image. And that, of course, is also important if you want to post your image on different social media formats. So now you can adapt the size and the ratio to whatever format you need. Here's another example. Again, really interesting. We have here a very nice painting style. Kind of reminds me of Van Gogh. And now this is the outpainting. This is the zoom out with a strength of 2. Again, you can see the sun has become much smaller and the outpainting has been created around that in the same style. And it looks really beautiful. And again, it really follows the concept. It really fits in there. I'm really blown away by how good this works. Next, I want to talk about another function that is called high variation. Now, to use that, you have to go into the settings. For that, you're going to write /setting and then hit enter. And this will pop up with all of these choices in here, where you can also choose if you want to use MJ version 5 or 5.1 or 5.2. All the kind of other versions, but also, as you can see down there, you have a high variation mode and a low variation mode. Now here is what this is good for. When you usually create an image, you have below the image the variation buttons V1, V2, V3, V4. When you click on these buttons, this can either create variations with a high or a low variation. So here we have examples of that. Again, these are created by Robomar. On the top right, you can see the input image, the original image that has been used to create these variations. Now, with the high variation, you can see there is a lot more variation in the face shape, in the color scheme, in the design this has been created in. Now, in the low variation version, you can see, for example, that all of the faces are blue and all of these head decorations and feathers follow a very similar color style, similar color variation in there. So these are sticking closer together. And that is really, really useful because now you can stick in the artistic style, but then still have variations that go further away from that and still keep the consistency of your artistic concept of what you want to follow and dive deeper into. So that is a really fantastic addition to Midjourney. Now, another thing with the new Midjourney update is Stylize. Stylize was there before, but now it has been fixed and adjusted. And this is closer to how Stylize worked with version 3, which is amazing because this means you have more artistic output and also that it is more playful, and I really enjoy that because I'm personally a huge fan of version 3 and how dreamy, playful and strange it was. Now with this Stylize, the value goes from 0 to 1000. The base value, if you don't use Stylize as a command, is Stylize 100. So here you can see a version of Stylize 0. And this is a version of Stylize 100. So basically the normal output that you would get. It looks pretty beautiful, but it's also a lot more detailed. Here is the Stylize 500, and that is completely different. It looks more like a 3D graphic. Very beautiful, very detailed. I love the output I get from that, but as you see, it has a lot more stylization and detail and artistic expression in there. Really interesting. And then here we have Stylize 1000. Now here the door is flying off the handle and the artistic style is just madness. It's really amazing. You also get a lot of variation in the different variations of the image. So that is pretty cool. Like you can see on the lower left, you have these red flowers. There's lots more colors. And on the top left, you have this more gray values in there, gray and beige. All of them are very beautiful, and it is really cool that now you have the ability to be more playful with the same prompt just by using Stylize values. So I'm absolutely inviting you to play around with this. And now we are coming to Midjourney 5.2, and here I have some example images for you because as you told me, you want to see more examples. So this is a nice scene here. I actually entered a cyberpunk city. This is more Japanese, but I like the details. I love the reflections on the ground. And 5.2 is very expressive, very detailed, and can just create amazing images. Here we have another image of a race car. I love the reflection on the paint of the car, also the feeling of the speed while this car is racing through the Alps. Everything about that is really, really very nice and detailed and high resolution. And the quality of the glass, of the metal, of the rubber, of all the different materials is very expressive and very nice. In this next example by RoboMar, this has more of a cinematic feeling to it. I love the expressiveness of it and the style and how it plays with the colors. And as you can see, this 5.2 can do a lot of different styles, a lot of different things, and go from being very abstract to being very detailed, and from being very artistic to being very realistic. So again, this is really cool. And as you can see here, this has a combination of this orange and teal color scheme. So that is also pretty cool because that is very popular with these kind of more cinematic images. Next, again, we have more of a fantasy city here. Again, a little bit of a Japanese style in here, but again, the details are just really beautiful. And the interesting thing here is also how much detail is in the different parts of the image, because usually the more details you have, the more problems it has with defining the smaller details in the image. But here, from the flowers to the bigger parts of the buildings, and also again the reflections in the water, there's a lot of stuff in there that looks really beautiful and also has nice material feeling to it, and also a very nice color scheme. Next, we have a beautiful digital painting. Now, this is something that kind of reminds me of Stable Diffusion models that you can download from Civid AI in this quality, but as you can see here, this has a super high resolution. It has a very nice quality. The artistic expressiveness here is very beautiful. And also I like the structure and the anatomy of the face and all the little details in there. How good that looks and how well everything works is really beautiful. Next, we have here more of a comic style to show you different styles this can create. Again, very beautiful, very nice color choices, nice details, very sharp and crisp lines. And again, even though this is upscale to fill my screen, it still looks amazing and very nice. And the face expression, the anatomy here, everything again fits really well. Here we have a painting style, this kind of impasto painting where you have the color very thick on the canvas. This looks like it is painted with a knife. Very nice technique, very consistent. And also the birds and all the kind of details are created in a very nice style, but also very consistent with how artistically you would actually paint this, how you would actually create this. So that is really beautiful. Here I created a little bit older woman. Now the face isn't completely wrinkly. I didn't write that in the prompt. Maybe I should have tried that. But you see it creates nice gray hair here. I love the bokeh in the background. Kind of from the look and the face, she reminds me a little bit of Ellie McBeal. But overall, the image is just very beautiful. And again, I love the color choices that have been made here. Next, we have another work by RoboMar. Here we have a selfie with a zombie, with a crowd around the zombie. the impressive thing here is that most of the faces, even in the background, look very good, nice, detailed. There is not much error in these other faces in the image. And this is the quality you get right away from Midjourney. That is surprising because with Stable Diffusion you can create amazing images, but it has problems with multiple faces and you would need to do a lot of upscaling afterwards to get to this kind of quality. And here, this is out of the box. It's just mind-blowing. And by the face comparison between the young girl and the zombie next to it, I also love the texture and this kind of witheredness, this kind of dry feeling skin that the zombie has, and then the youthful and soft and nice skin of the young girl right next to it. So this comparison is also very interesting to see the different details and the materials, the surfaces that Midjourney can create. And here, as a last image, we also have a very beautiful watercolor drawing. Very nice. Again, very beautiful color choices. I love everything about that. So that is really beautiful and I really enjoy everything about this. Let me know in the comments what you think about all these kind of new functions. Thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye. Oh, you're still here. So this is the end screen. There's other stuff you can watch like this or that. It's really cool. And yeah, I hope I see you soon. Leave a like if you haven't yet. And well, yeah, I wish you a good weekend.